Yosem Shaniabu, Ketchem Alea. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. I had mentioned previously in an Instagram post that we were going to have a class dedicated to taste and smells. And for those of you guys who were not able to join us, we're going to be going over some of the things that were addressed in this class. I also wanted to extend the invitation. This is our current Zoom link. And if for whatever reason it's asking for a passcode, this right here will be the passcode to enter, to be allowed into the meeting room. I had brought up this idea of beginning again with language classes every week on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. However, there has been something that was brought up to my attention that I wanted to share with you guys as community, with you all as community, and that is the fact that the tribe has began offering this cultural class that's going to be teaching people about our culture on Tuesday nights from, I want to say 5:30 to 7, something along those lines. But it's during that stretch of time that our class takes place. So part of me is very excited for that, given that the more resources we have available to us as UM people, the better, right? However, I wanted to bring to your attention if we should consider a change of date and time for our Tuesday classes, given that we were considering starting all over again from beginning UMA. For those of you who have never taken a class before, I invite you to join us. We're gonna, again, start all over again, mid-October, thinking October 12th, which is the day after Indigenous Peoples Day, but that's still in the planning stages. Okay, so let's get started for today. That's plenty of an intro, and it wasn't my intention to make it that long, but that's how it goes. So we're gonna start off with taste. And I think taste is such an important part of what makes us human, right? What makes us enjoy life, and particularly food. As they say, Yaquis son del buen diente. So we at least myself, I enjoy eating quite a bit. So the first taste we're going to be talking about today is saltiness. Level of salt in our food. And the Yoeme word to describe that is choco, right? Salty. When something is salty, right? And the example that came to mind is, when the beans are too salty or not, or when they contain not enough salt. So we're gonna discuss both of them. So the beans are too salty, and the beans don't have enough salt. Now, as someone who's been eating beans basically their whole life, I sure can't cook them as well as my mom or grandmother. So I'm either always too salty or not enough salt. If that's your problem, then we can dwell on the struggle of being bad cooks, huh? Okay, so the beans are too salty. So how are we going to start this sentence is we're going to break it down. And in Yoeme, the word order that is very typical is subject, object, verb, okay? In this case, we don't have a verb, but if we did have a verb, it has to always go at the end, right? You'll never be wrong if you put your action or your verb at the end, okay? So how do we begin this? The subject, the beans, okay? So in Yoemi, the singular is who, right? And so this is the singular, and the plural is whome, the plural. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't just eat one bean. And if that's the case, we're probably cooking by hundreds of beans right at a time. So we have to use whome, right? Whome. Now, the word for beans in Yoemi is, yes, you guessed it right, munim. So whome munim, right? That's our subject, the beans. Now, are we saying that the beans are too salty, as in excess of salt, or are we saying that the beans are just salty? In this case, we use the word too salty, okay? So we are making a reference that they're almost uneatable, right? We can't, beans that are too salty, you know, are basically no bueno. So in that case, we're gonna say too, or excess is C, okay? So C is excess, too much, right? Very much. So humemunim, C, now we're gonna talk about salt. And what is it? Choco. So our sentence should read, humemunim, C, choco, right? The beans are too salty. Now, if I would just have written the beans are salty, right? I still keep the same scheme of order, right? So humemunim, but instead of saying too much or excessively, I am just gonna say the beans are salty. So humemunim choco, right? Humemunim choco. Okay, the beans are salty. All right, that wasn't too bad, was it? Now, what about when the beans don't have salt, right? So if the beans don't have enough salt, right, we would say, again, humemunim, right? Ka tua choco, right? Now, let's talk about a couple of things. Ka, as you guys have heard before, right, means it means none, right? Or it means zero, nada, nothing, along those lines, right? It indicates the absence of. So absence of. All right. Now, tua is a descriptive word, right? Just like si is, right? It describes, but it means truly, right? Or in such manner, right? So we said the beans don't have enough salt. So in this case, we are saying humemunim, the beans, ka tua choco, right? The beans truly aren't as salty or truly lack salt, if that makes sense, okay? So this would translate to the beans don't have enough salt, okay? Now, just to simplify things and go over them again, if something is too salty, we would say si choco, right? If something doesn't have enough salt or has no salt at all, we would say ka choco, okay? Any questions on that? Comment down below, and we'll get to addressing those questions, okay? All right, so that was our first example, saltiness. right? Now we want to examine another flavor that a lot of us are fans of, especially me. And I'm sure a lot of us do enjoy sweets. Caca. Now, my my younger sister, um, my younger sister, who is at the moment 8 years old, but when she was younger, um, probably 4, 3, 4, 5, you know, she developed a strong liking for Coca-Cola, the drink, right? And she would call Coca-Cola, she would call it Caca-Cola, right? A sweet cola drink. Okay. Now, when we would go places, right? And this obviously this is all prior to COVID, right? I mean, 3, 4 years ago. And she would ask, you know, whoever, you know, was at the table, or, you know, taking our order, or we went to a restaurant, or just simple McDonald's interaction. When they ask her for her drink, she would say, I want Coca-Cola. And people would think, you know, she was mispronouncing words, but she was just using her heritage language. And we all found it funny at home that we still tease her to this day. So if you ever meet my younger sister, you know, you can remind her to drink a Coca-Cola, a sweet cola drink. Anyways, caca, another side story, is not poop as a lot of people would think you'll be saying, right? If you say it in public, it's actually sweet, dulce, right? So in UM, it's okay to act like a caca, right? It's okay to be sweet, if that makes any sense. Okay, so again, simple interaction, right? Si caca, very sweet, right? Ka caca, not sweet. Okay, simple as that. Okay, now let's talk about something that I think a lot of people consume, and that's coffee, right? I think a lot of people have developed a liking for coffee. Now, even though there is multiple ways people throughout the years have talked about coffee in our language, I'm going to encourage you guys to instead use the word coffee. Right now, I'm encouraging you guys because that's what I'm going to use here in this example. If you have something else to describe coffee, like cafe, or anything else that you use as a word to describe it, by all means, go ahead, put it in your example. But I'm using coffee because it can relate to everyday life. Let's say we have kids, right? And they're in high school, middle school, elementary school, right? And they hear the word coffee along with their UM heritage language. I think it creates something about relatability to them, that their language is not something that is only used in times of ceremony or in times of greeting another relative, but it can be used in everyday life, right? So that's why I'm saying coffee, okay? But if you have something that your family uses as a supplement to coffee, or another word, use it. I encourage that too. Okay, so coffee. If we wanted to say the coffee is not sweet, take a second, write it down. What would you write? So again, coffee in this case, what are we looking at? Plural or singular? We are looking as coffee as a whole, right? So it could be a cup of coffee, it can be a whole pot of coffee, but coffee as a whole. So we're going to say who, right? Who, coffee, and what are we trying to say? Not sweet. Ka, kaka. Okay. The coffee is not sweet. You know, and just for practice, right? if I wanted to say the coffee is extremely or very much sweet, what would I say? Do you guys recall that word? Extremely? Extremely sweet? It would be what? Si, caca, right? All right, so let's write that down. The coffee is extremely sweet. Okay, take a second, write it down. You ready? Who coffee? Si, caca. Okay. Now, there's some people that take their coffee very sweet. There's some people that take their coffee sweet, right? Who coffee, caca, right? The coffee is sweet, it's okay, right? But there's some people that like their coffee black, just simple, no sweetness, right? So how would I say that? The coffee without sweetness. Well, we can reference back to this, who coffee cacaca, right? Our coffee without any sweeteners to express how we like it, right? Okay. Let's say we wanted to say, again, we're trying to make it relatable, right? We all have cousins, kids, or we know of children, and adults aren't the only ones that are fans of candy. Children are as well, right? So if I wanted to say the child is eating something sweet, how would I say that? So first of all, let's bring back that knowledge that we were talking about at the beginning, which is subject, object, verb, okay? Subject, object, verb in UMA tells us that the verb has to go at the end. So if we examine the sentence and we look at it, it says the child is eating something sweet. What is the verb here? Eating, right? So let me underline that. The verb is going to be underlined and bolded. Okay. Who's the subject? The child, right? So we're going to italicize the child. Okay. As a matter of fact, the verb is not going to be bolded. It's just going to be underlined. So is eating, underline. Okay. Now the object, something sweet, a candy. Okay. Sweet, a candy. Okay. So the object is going to be bolded. Okay, object is going to be bold. All right. Now, just from looking at that sentence right there, how would you structure it? Okay. So first of all, if you have not learned of the word to describe a child, we're going to learn it today. That word is, child is usi. Okay. Now, if this was multiple children, it would be usin. Okay. But it's just one. So the M at the end of the word will add plurality. Okay, so this is plural. This is singular. Okay, cool. All right. So we want to say the child is eating a candy, right? Okay. Take a few seconds. And write it down. Take a few seconds. Okay, you all ready? You all ready to share? I don't know why I stopped that long, but okay. So how do we begin this? The child. So who, usi, the child, right? What is the child doing? He is eating candy, okay? So kakai, okay? And the word to eat is wae, okay? So the verb to eat is wae, okay? Keep that in mind. So your sentence should read, hu usi kakai wae. Now, if for whatever reason you wrote it as hu usi kaka wae, that's also correct. It's just a matter of variation in grammar and understanding of the language. And nobody is going to make a big deal if you wrote it as kaka or kakai, okay? It's just a matter of how advanced you are in the language at this moment in time, okay? But this right here is completely acceptable. And if you wrote it that way, give yourself a thumbs up because you're doing good. All right. Who here is a fan of ice cream? I am. Although for whatever reason, I don't eat it as often as I want to. You know, I come from a long family of type 1 diabetics and type 2 diabetics, but mainly type 1. And I'm not diabetic myself, but out of respect for people where we were growing up in our family, you know, we kind of restrict ourselves a bit in the ice cream category, just because, you know, if the children are eating it and the adults are the ones that have that issue, at least that's how we were raised, right? But let's say I want to say, we're going to give you know, let's talk about a name in your okay? Sewa, flower, flor, okay? Let's talk about flor, right? Sewa. And sewa is eating a very delicious ice cream, okay? So how will we say that? So sewa or flor, you're gonna have to translate it, is eating a very delicious ice cream, okay? So again, subject, object, verb, okay? I'm not gonna go over this highlighting aspect again, but the subject here is who? Sewa, okay? So who? Sewa, okay? What's the object here? The ice cream, right? Now, ice cream in UM, when we are talking strictly about food, is sapan, okay? Now, I mentioned this, that when we're talking strictly about food is because sapan, when we're talking about geographical conditions, could be snow, right? And this brings to the attention the fact that we are not strangers to snow, right? So if you were wondering the climate circumstances in the snowy desert, yes, it does snow in the snowy desert, and you have seen it. It snows in Tucson. It even snows in Phoenix from time to time, but the mountainous regions always carry some snow in the wintertime, right? Okay, so Flor is eating a very delicious ice cream. So the object is a very delicious ice cream. Okay, so think for a second, think back. How would we say very delicious ice cream, right? A very delicious ice cream. So I think I got a little bit ahead of ourselves with this question, but let's not say very delicious. I haven't taught you guys yet the word for very delicious. So very sweet. Sorry, guys. Very sweet. We're gonna change it up. Very sweet. A very sweet ice cream. So very sweet. So if we want to say very sweet, what do we say? Do you guys recall? What do we use? We would use si, caca, right? Just trying to look if I had written it here before. Si, caca. Very sweet, yes. Very sweet. There it is. Okay. Very sweet ice cream. Okay, so Flor is eating a very sweet ice cream. Okay, so let's get started. Take a few seconds. Pause the video if you need to. Okay. Here it is. So pause the video. Attempt to make the sentence on your own. That's the best way to practice. Oh, we forgot the verb, guys. We forgot the verb. The verb is to eat, right? Wae, right? Wae. Say that with me. Wae. Wae. Now, if you're having trouble with this B and W, it's pronounced very similar to go, right? Gu or bu, right? Buai. Okay. Buai. Okay, maybe that was a little confusing, but buai. Okay. Buai. Okay. All right. All right, let's not confuse ourselves too much. Why? All right, let's get started. So unpause your video if you didn't unpause it. Hopefully you're still there. So who or who, sewa, right? What's our object? What is our object, people? Si. Kaka I sapam. Wae. Right? Who, sewa, si, kaka I sapam. Wae. Okay, let's say it together. Husewa sikakai sapamwae. All right, good. We're making progress. If you got this sentence, I would say you're pretty solid, right? If you got that sentence, you are solid. All right, we're doing good. If you didn't get that sentence, it's okay. Don't give up. You know, it's just a matter of looking at it from another angle or looking at what's giving us trouble, right? All right, so we are going to look at another taste, as a matter of fact. And this is going to be, we're going to measure the level of deliciousness, right? And the word for deliciousness in Yoeme is kia. And I'm not talking about your car brand. Although if you drive a Kia, you can technically tell people that's the official delicious car brand. You know, you bought it because you're Yaqui and you felt attracted to that word. I don't know. But if you drive a Kia, that's you have it. A little motivation to keep you in the loop. You know, it's funny because part of the work that I do sees me or has me seeing words in other languages, and then I start comparing them to ours. You know, and obviously Kia is a word in Asian language, right? So every language could potentially have words that are similar to others, but obviously with different meanings. Now, if you're wondering, this is kind of just off track right here, but if you're wondering who our language is the most similar to, from what I have been studying, you'll be surprised that our language is very close to almost 90% Hopi, very, very close to 90% Hopi, right? And other Puebloan languages which share the same language structure, linguistic categories. Now, if you are thinking, but wait, what about Mayo, Yoreme? You're right. Yoreme and Yoeme, Mayo and Yaqui, Yoeme are very, very, very similar, very identical. The only thing that changes is dialectal variation in the way people speak and in the way people write. This is because, as I've been told by, elders in the community, people of knowledge bearers of a long time, that at some point in time, we were one, right? However, we split, and as people split, right, they move away from each other. Is when they start suffering these linguistic transformations, right? Almost as if, and this is right, wrong example, but if we live here in Southern California, there's a way people speak the English language here, as opposed to if someone lives in the East Coast, they speak a little bit different, even though it's very similar level of vocabulary. It can have, obviously, it can have variation in certain words that only appear in that geographic location as to this. Now, that's very common in indigenous languages, but okay, back to this. Before we go on a rant, I'm known for rants and it's hard to get out of them, okay? So level of deliciousness, yeah. So when something tastes very good, so very good taste, very good taste, tasteful, we would say sikia, right? When something tastes as bad as your mother-in-law's cooking, just kidding, ex-mother-in-law is cooking. No, I'm just kidding. My ex-mother-in-law used to cook really good, actually. You would say kaki, okay, kaki. So it doesn't taste good. It doesn't taste good. Now, this is funny because it's hard to pull off commentary on family members about the tastefulness of their food. Even if we think they're not language speakers, this word kia has been around. It's around the kitchen. So ka, everybody knows what ka means, right? Ka, kaita, right? The absence of. So the absence of good taste or tastefulness automatically indicates food sucks. So yeah, don't be using that around your Yaqui relatives, even if you think they don't understand. They probably do, and you don't want to hurt their feelings. Unless you do, then go ahead, do it. I dare you. Just kidding. Okay. So let's say I wanted to say my food is delicious, right? Somehow I think I'm from Top Chef or something along those lines. Next Wolfgang Puck in the making. My food is delicious, I'm talking about me. Not at all. I suck at cooking, but my food is good, right? We could say, or how would we say that? My food is delicious. So let's break down some linguistic elements. Mine, right? Ne, my, right? My food is delicious. In this case, we're not talking about, we're talking specifically about our own persona, right? That's why I use ne instead of using in, which also means in relation to me, right? In will be more appropriate if I'm just saying, you know, my water. In baam, okay? In this case, ne, my, me, does the trick, okay? And what food am I talking about here? Okay. And like a good Yaqui, we eat Wakawaki, okay? So my Wakawaki is delicious. Okay, so ne, right? So ne, the subject is ne or me. The object is the Wakawaki, right? And we are saying that it's delicious, right? So it's also part of the subject. The Wakawaki is what? Delicious. So let's write that down. How would we write that down? So hu Wakawaki, is that how we write it down? Hu Wakawaki Kia? Well, if you wrote it down that way, first of all, it's not wrong, but we are saying the Wakawaki is delicious. And it's true. If it's Wakawaki, it's typically really good. But we're not saying my Wakawaki is delicious, right? So that's what we're trying to say here. My Wakawaki is delicious. Okay. So there's a couple of ways of going on this, right? So we would say kiasi. What would we say? I'll leave it up to you guys for a second before I start typing. So pause it. So this is one way of writing it. Si kiase ne wakawaki, right? My wakawaki is delicious. Okay, that's one way of writing it. Another way of writing this is going back to that thing that we said. In wakawaki, si kiasi. Okay. Now these are two ways that you can write this same statement. And I encourage you to use the one you feel most comfortable with. Okay. I hope I'm not confusing you too much, but if I am, please let me know. Okay. All right. We have delicious in the books. We have salty in the books. Sweet. Let's look at sour. Sour. Actually, let's look at hot and cold. So hot and cold, because they're a little bit easier. Okay. After a harder concept, it's easier to cool down or ease off with something that's a little bit easier. That way, if we had negative affirmation before, we can pick up the pace again, go back to whatever was giving us trouble, or just simply look up at other material again. So cold. When something tastes, right? Something tastes cold. We say sepia. Sepia. Okay. So this applies to food and drinks. Okay, cold. So if I wanted to say the coffee is cold or not hot, right? What do we say? Well, I think at this point you have enough knowledge to break it down on your own, right? Subject, object, verb. So let's give it a try. Who, coffee, sepia. Okay, simple as that. Who, coffee, sepia, right? The coffee's cold. What about the food is cold? The food is cold. So first of all, food. Wama. Wami. Wami. Okay. Wami. Okay. So one thing that I would say to help ease with this word is wa. A lot will stop, meaning you take a small break. Ami. Right? Let's do it all together. Wa. Ami. Okay. Food. So if I wanted to say the food is cold, I would say, go ahead. Who, wa, me. Sepia. Okay, good job. Now let's look at hot. Okay. Tata. Okay. If I wanted to say the coffee is too hot, so watch out, you might burn yourself. Just like that McDonald's lady did. Luckily for her, she got a Class A lawsuit out of it. But I'm sure there was other victims of hot coffee burning, not just at McDonald's, but everywhere. So the coffee is too hot. Okay. So too hot, describing hot is tata, but it's not enough. We want to say too hot. So we say si tata. Okay. So who, coffee, si tata. Okay. How does that sound? Now, if something is boiling hot, right? When something is boiling hot, right? This is typically when something is extremely hot, right? But boiling. So from this, we are talking specifically about water, right? Boiling hot, but water. The word is pukte. Okay, pukte. So if I wanted to say the water is boiling, what would I say? Hu vaam pukte. Okay. So the water is not just hot or too hot, it's actually boiling. So this is actually hume. I made a mistake. Hume vaam, right? Pukte. Okay. Hume vaam pukte. Now, let's take it a step further, everyone. What if I wanted to say the water for the coffee is now boiling. Okay. Now, this is important because we are probably going to hear it from our grandmothers or our mothers or even our fathers, our grandfathers, right? Someone's going to tell us the water for the coffee is now boiling, it's ready, right? Because once the water boils, we all know it's ready, it's good to go, right? So how will we say that? So subject, object, verb. Okay. So first of all, let's identify our subject. And we can do it together, or you can pause it, whichever you like, okay? So, home va is my subject. Let me know if I'm wrong though, okay? Let me know if you got something else. What's our object? Coffee, okay? Coffee's water, right? But mainly coffee, okay? So coffee. And what's our verb? Now boiling, right? So there's a word in UM that indicates now, right? At the moment, right now, and that is haibu, okay? And now boiling would be haibu bukte, okay? So you ready? If you haven't paused at this point, let's give it a try. So hume vaam coffee. I missed a detail. Bechivo. Haibu bukte. So I missed the detail, or I forgot to include that the object was the whole coffee, right? So when we are talking about something as a whole, in this case, coffee as a whole, we have to say bechivo. Bechivo means as a whole, okay? So our sentence will read, Hume vaam coffee bechivo haibu pukte, okay? Any questions about that? Well, if there is questions, please, in the comment section, let me know. Give me your feedback, okay? We have smells, but so far this has been a pretty long video. And actually, to be quite sincere, during our class, which spans for an hour, we didn't necessarily get into smells because the same thing happened. We kind of ran out of time. So I went over them very briefly, to the point where I don't think it's necessary for me to go over them here, but I'll make a separate video. So this is just going to be titled Taste, okay? Alrighty, so again, we reached the end of the video. I want to thank you guys for, being a part with me in this process of just sharing what we know of the language, a little bit of what we know. A little bit of this is made possible through the encouragement of you guys, of you all. The fact that this helps people connect with their culture, or connect with their language, gives me satisfaction, right? And I hope this can also serve as something that breaches a gap that perhaps you were feeling at some point. Because one thing that I've learned from my elders is that language calls your name, culture calls you, where you're from calls you, and this is simple, human nature 101, right? Everybody has this in their mind. Where do I come from? Who am I? Where am I going? Right? But a big question every human has is, what's my background? Who are my ancestors? Now, the beautiful thing about being Yoeme, about being Yaqui, is that we know exactly where our ancestors were, right? Who our ancestors are, what they did for us, allowed us for us to be here, right? So I feel, in a way, us learning the language, even if it's bits and pieces here and there, helps us get closer to, you know, a position or a place in time, even if it's imaginary, even if it's in another realm or another timeline, to be that near or nearer to our ancestors. So keep striving for good ideals. And like I said, I don't think you can go wrong by learning your language. So, all right, well, thank you again. You guys are all invited to our classes. Comment down below, what days are better for a weekly class, right? What days will be better for weekly class? Now, I also have to accommodate my schedule, but the fact that they're teaching the language class, the culture class on the same day I'm teaching the class, I would like to provide the opportunity for more people to benefit from both things, right? So if it's not enough people who will want this Tuesday thing to be changed, then I'll just leave it like that. It works with me. But if a lot of people want to be a part of this class, then we will try to make a change to accommodate as many people as possible, or even have 2 different days in which we teach the language. So please let me know, give me some feedback, how you think this class went. And yeah, interact with me. I appreciate that, you know. There is a social media page that I'll try to be posting some things. It's Yaqui Forever. And my email is my name at UCLA. So, and obviously you can always comment on the YouTube and stuff. Yeah, thank you again for your time. Shokwe utesia. Tui tukaria. Have a great night, and may Creator take good care of every single one of you. Dios emomake in yoemia. Thank you. Have a good night.